So, Aubrey, you're very welcome, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Man, you know what? I saw your playing and I was just like, I got to talk with this guy. And I just think that I don't even know if you realize that you've mastered this genre.
I didn't realize it, but I'm working at it. Yeah.
It's just amazing the work that you've done, and your Instagram posts, like everyone is just killing. And I think that I'm going to ask you like a really super basic question, and that is, what is bluegrass guitar?
So it's kind of like country, except it's like its own like genre of that. But it's basically just like acoustic instruments. You know, you have like the mandolin, guitar, banjo, bass, like fiddle, and so that's basically it. And then you have singing, you know.
Right. What does somebody have to know to be able to start playing bluegrass?
It is a lot about like improvising, sort of like jazz, you know. It's like you have to know the melody first, and then you have to like be creative, like with the scales. Obviously you're playing the scales and you have to play the chord changes. But like with bluegrass, it's a lot simpler than like jazz or something where you have a whole bunch of modes and stuff. Like with bluegrass, it's basically just like the major and pentatonic, and sometimes you might have something like diminished or something like that, but it's usually just like, you know, and
Right.
with like every chord, you know. So
if somebody's starting out learning bluegrass guitar and they're starting to approach the repertoire, a friend of mine told me he lives in Nashville, who plays around as an amateur, plays bluegrass guitar, and he was saying that first of all, even to take part in a jam session, you have to know tons of tunes.
yeah, that's true.
Say, do you get your improvising vocabulary from the melodies?
You get it from listening to other bluegrass players. It's like its own language, you know, just like the rest of the genres.
And did you do a lot of transcribing?
I did at
or
first.
Figuring out solos?
Yeah, I did at first whenever I first started, and then after that, once you've like listened to it so much, you can just kind of like remember what you heard and just like apply it to the guitar.
And when you say remember what you heard, a question I like to ask everybody that I interview is, do you have perfect pitch?
I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's pretty close, I think.
Is it easy for you to hear a solo and to pick things right off of the record without having to slow it down?
Oh yeah. That's how I do it now. I've never done tab before, like in my whole life. So.
Had you slowed down stuff to figure it out, or no?
Yeah, I had. Yes.
And so how does one go about building a repertoire of those kind of fiddle tunes that you find in bluegrass?
So you had to start by listening to a lot of the bluegrass players, like even the older ones, you know, like Tony Rice and like Doc Watson and all them people, and just listen to the tunes and stuff and the licks that they're playing. You know, like a lot of it sounds like you would know that's bluegrass just by hearing it, you know.
For someone to feel equipped, like they're into bluegrass, they just started, now they have 10 tunes together, and is it time for them to go to a session or not yet?
10 tunes? Probably not. I would suggest even when you're starting getting into jams, because that's like how you learn, you know.
What age did you start playing at?
I started when I was like 12.
So you've obviously put in tons of hours, hundreds and hundreds of hours in playing.
Right. Yes.
How much do you practice? How much were you practicing, or do you practice a day?
I practice at least 2 or 3 hours a day. You know, because it's one of those things where you have to keep up with it every day or you'll lose it, you know.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Like guitar technique is kind of like that. Like
Yeah.
if you just lay off a couple of days, you totally feel it, don't you?
Exactly. That's why I keep it up like every day, because like I know how that is. I don't like it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
bad feeling.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I noticed, which I had written to you about, which of course I'm obsessed with technical things, and I noticed that you play economy picking going downwards towards the ground, like ascending,
Yes.
but going up, or physically up or down to to the lower register of the guitar, lower strings, that is. You don't. You use alternate picking. I think I have that right. That's generally it. Am I wrong, or?
So you're saying
right?
economy picking as in like more than one downstroke in a row, or like more than one upstroke in a row, right?
Yeah, like when you're changing strings going downwards,
Yeah.
you'll do like two. You'll do if your last pick is a down pick, you'll do that same thing on the next string.
So
Wow. So sometimes like,
yeah.
now, how did you? That's something you did naturally, right?
Yes. I'm doing whatever is more comfortable, you know. I'm not the person that tells people that you should strictly be alternate. So it's whatever's more comfortable. Like right there. And I think that like economy picking is can make you faster, you know.
Well, you sound super smooth, and
Thank you.
yeah, I think I seen David Greer occasionally do it, but definitely it's not the rule. You know, I've had students that naturally do economy picking from literally lesson 1. I've had other students that have done from lesson 1. Alternate picking is their most comfortable thing, and it's very telling because I think that it's important to go with what is comfortable for you. Those of us like myself never found anything comfortable until just recently. So there were a lot of years experimenting, and it was not really fruitful until recently. If you were to play like Red-Haired Boy or something like that, can you show us what your right hand would look like? Lovely. Man, that is just, it's great playing. It looks super comfortable.
Yeah.
It looks super comfortable. I know that you probably have not thought like really specifically about what you're doing. Man, you should like write that down and have your own Aubrey King method for that, because I seriously think that a lot of people would benefit from, first of all, seeing somebody who's already done it and knowing that there's a path. Because one of the things I think is really difficult for guitar players is they see somebody, like let's say one of your Instagram posts that are just blistering, 320 BPM. they're thinking, no
Yeah.
way. Like I love that sound, but they're just no way,
Right.
no way. So to know that it's already been figured out
Yeah.
and that there's a method to follow is a very cool
Right.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, I teach a lot of people like how to do this stuff, and if I even took just like a simple tune like that, like Blackberry Blossom, so it's like. As you can see, I'm using hammer-ons and stuff. So like I'll have that on the metronome at like say like 110 beats per minute. I'll just practice it like that until it's just completely clean, you know. And then I'll raise it up to like 125 or something. And I'll just keep raising it up. You know, but I'm trying not to miss any notes. I'm trying to play it as clean as possible, even at like higher speeds.
And how do you do that? Like, what do you do physically when you start getting up at those higher speeds?
So you have to really focus on relaxing your right hand, because when you're trying to play that fast, it's like natural to want to like tense up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to focus on relaxing, like this part of your arm, because a lot of people they'll stiffen up and they'll just use their whole arm like that. It's sort of like a twisting motion, like this.
Oh, really? Can you turn sideways
Yeah.
and maybe so we can see it? Awesome.
I mean, it's very minimal, but
So you're a wrist player predominantly.
yeah.
And did anybody tell you to do that when you were starting?
Nobody told me, but I learned from playing in jams and like bands and stuff that if I used my whole arm, I was going to get really tired. So I had to figure out how to, you know. You know.
What is the difference? Just to take a little step away from the technical side, what would be the difference between somebody playing electric country guitar and bluegrass, like in terms of the vocabulary?
Bluegrass is really its own thing, I think. I mean, there's some similarities.
So if there was an electric country player who had picked up the acoustic guitar, now he's playing bluegrass, you would be able to tell instantly.
Yeah.
With the vocabulary.
Oh yeah, and you would be able to tell like they're not used to an acoustic guitar if they played, you know. You know.
Yeah, that would be a good telltale sign,
Yeah,
now, wouldn't it?
For sure.
If somebody wanted to make their first foray into playing bluegrass, what are 3 things that you could show them to do that would be simple enough but would immediately sound like bluegrass?
Or
maybe even one thing.
Yeah. One sort of kind of a lick that you'll hear in bluegrass that you'll probably use in just about every song is something like this. And it's like it came from Tony Rice, but it's this lick right here. So if you learn those things in different chords, and you can do this by playing rhythm and transitioning to a different chord, so it's like. So I suggest always starting with rhythm and and that's and then throw in some runs that sound like bluegrass, like
yeah, that sounds great. If somebody's playing the G chord, what scale would you have them working out of? Like right there where you're playing the G?
So it depends on what kind of a song, what type of song it is. If it's a really mean sound, like bluesy sound, you're going to be using the pentatonic, and that's like... you're trying to get that mean sound. If it's the other type of song, like a nicer sound, you're going to be using the major scale.
So would you say that as a bluegrass player, you have to know like most of your open string scales?
With bluegrass, you're using mostly like open strings. And there's a lot of floating licks, Every now and then you'll use like a jazz lick, but ultimately you're just trying to make it sound like bluegrass. So you can work out of these positions right here. But yeah, it's mainly like open strings.
Now, what about, I know for bluegrass players, the pick is like a big deal. People obsess over the kind of pick that they should use. Tortoiseshell, plutonium, granite, cinder block.
Right.
What kind of picks do you use?
So I normally use these blue chip picks. Okay. These are about $35. This one is like
for one pick?
For one pick.
Okay.
But the tone is way better than anything else you can get. So anyways, this one's probably around 1.2 millimeters.
Mm-hmm.
I find that that's just perfect. I don't want anything other than that. Usually anything between 1 and 1.5 is good.
How should somebody have their bluegrass guitar set up?
Yeah. So I think with my guitar, I have it set up pretty low.
What are your thoughts on people spending like thousands and thousands of dollars for a bluegrass guitar? One that isn't a vintage guitar.
I think that it makes a difference. Handmade guitars are the best. Factory guitars are good, but this one's hand built by a friend of mine, and it's made just for sounding good. Everything about it has a pretty thin top, but German spruce on the top.
Nice.
It just sounds really good.
And how much should somebody expect to pay for something like that?
I would say probably $4,000 or $5,000.
If somebody wasn't going to go like that kind of professional route, they could play bluegrass on pretty much any guitar that was just set up nicely.
Yeah, I would say Blue Ridge guitars are good, and they're not expensive.
Up where you're located, are there a lot of bluegrass sessions, or?
There's not that much. There is some bluegrass players, but nothing like it is in like North Carolina and Nashville, But mainly what I do is I have my recording set up in here, and they'll send me their track or their songs that I'll play guitar or mandolin or whatever, and I teach a lot of lessons from here, like online.
So if somebody wanted to get in touch with you for lessons, how should they do that?
They can send me an email or go to my Instagram.
Aubrey, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, to do this interview. I don't think a lot of people know about you, and I think they should, because you're an amazing guitarist, and I really think that you should be a household name in the bluegrass circles.
Thank you.
Hopefully that's going to happen.